I just googled it too, and when I went to the Wikipedia, it shows a black man. So I think it was an African invention.
Oh, that sounds like a really good way to do research. I know the picture is nice, but if you read the history, it actually backs your point up a little bit if you use the words on the page.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Alright.
Are you from 4channel, from the Polar thread?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. Do you think that I'm an ardent supporter or an advocate of incestual relationships?
Hang on, before we get into that, I need to ask you why you won't debate the alternative hypothesis.
Are you the dude?
No, I'm not that dude.
You're not that
I'm one
dude?
of them.
Oh, you're one of them? Because I don't think I have the prerequisite background knowledge right now to do it.
But you say you don't have the prerequisite knowledge to debate him, but you debate, like, dumb people.
I mean, I guess if every single person I've debated is dumb, sure.
Right.
Right,
And
what?
at one point you mentioned that you have friends who have PhDs, and I forget what field, but it was a pretty good field. You said that you could consult them.
Yeah, what about it?
Like, what kind of access do you have to them? Is it like a DM type of thing? Are they always around?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to right now, you could message one of them?
I could. I don't know if they're available right now. Most of the post-grad dudes usually go to sleep at reasonable hours.
Right.
I just don't know if I want to become like an expert in fucking genetics to have to go through that website. It's worth of shit. It's a lot of fucking shit to go through.
You could have your PhD friends help you though, right?
Well, but they would still have to like prepare articles. I think that's a lot of work that I'm requesting them to do.
Oh yeah.
To like prepare all of the debate material for me or whatever. Like that seems like a pretty like I would have to pay for that kind of research. It's like grant work, dude.
So you're dodging him on purpose, basically, and not because he hasn't reached out to you?
I think apparently he tried to tweet at me. I mean, I guess if he really wanted to talk, I guess I wouldn't object to it. But I mean, like, well, if people get dug into a certain level of conspiracy theory, like you have to have like an insane amount of background knowledge to debunk what it is they're saying. And I know that dude has spent a lot of fucking time on his website, so I would. Like, again, like, I would compare it to, like, the flat earth stuff. Like, I'm sure that there is, like, the world's best flat earther would have shit that I wouldn't be able to out-debate him about. So, I mean, does that mean that I'm forced to accept that flat earth is a legitimate theory, or...?
Well, I mean, you're not debating with flat earthers, you're debating
I do
race
sometimes.
realists.
Yeah, I do, but I mean, if I can at least demonstrate that their understanding of the subject is not up to snuff, then that's enough for me. Then at least I can show a shortcoming of information on their end.
Right. So why is it that you do these debates then?
I do my debates for two reasons. One, I typically want to make sure that people are forming their arguments and their thoughts in logically consistent ways. So make sure that they're building arguments correctly, make sure that they know how to do like decent like source analysis, like they're not like reading tabloids to get their information. And then the second thing is that I would hope that in the process of doing that I can guide debates into more realistic areas. So like instead of arguing whether or not like globalization is good or bad, which is kind of a dumb argument, it would be more like what are some of the pros, what are some of the cons, and what are the best ways to mitigate the cons and take advantage of the pros. Like that would be my position for most types of policy things. So like that would extend to social policy, that would extend to immigration, stuff like that, foreign policy or whatever.
And did you say the second reason, or were...
Yeah, those are the two reasons. The first one to help people form logical arguments with logical thought structures, and then the second one is to have policy conversations that are centered in reality and not conversations over really dumb things, like should we ban all immigration? Like I would consider that to be like a pretty dumb topic. But rather like how much immigration is appropriate or would be like a better topic, I think.
But how are you supposed to guide a discussion that you don't really understand?
I think I understand it pretty well.
Well, you've already admitted several times that you don't.
Wait, what don't I understand?
Like, just a lot of the topics that the alt-hype goes into.
Isn't that... I don't understand any of his race realist stuff. Or, I mean, I have a decent understanding of the race realist stuff. I'm just not sure. Like, if he brings up... Like, for instance, let's say that I bring up something like, okay, well, hey, the scientific consensus on this topic says this for these reasons. And then he says something like, okay, but did you hear about the psychosomonal, like, genetic harbinger of, like, the 27th X parallel? And I was like, well, no, I don't know anything about that. And he's like, well, there you go. So you don't know what you're talking about. So it's like, well, no, fuck. Like, so, I mean, like, depending on the level of knowledge that he has, like, I mean, like, it basically every conversation would be like, okay, well, did you hear about this? And I'd be like, well, nope, I'll go look it up. And then I would have to come back like over 50 million debates. Like, it's just not worth it. But I think it's okay to defer to academic authority on this topic, right?
Right.
Do you know anything about like CPUs, like computers?
I know a fair amount, definitely more than the average.
Do you know the difference between like an i5 and an i7?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think that in general, like, an i7 is better than an i5?
Wait. I've seen this argument before, but hang on, before we get into that, you say,
Sorry,
like, you consult the scientific consensus, and
yeah.
Do you actually know what the scientific consensus is?
On what?
The shit that you've talked about with Jontron and Sargon.
In terms of intelligence, the scientific consensus right now is that there is no definitive answer on how much of genetics versus environments can explain like differences between intelligence and groups. That from everything that I've read, that seems to be the consensus.
Well, I mean, there's a fair bit of consensus, one way or the other. But I mean, you have to look at who to trust.
When you say there is a fair bit of consensus, what do you mean by that?
I mean that there have been surveys done on people like intelligence researchers, and there is a consensus.
Do you have a link to any of those? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You can send it to me later.
Yeah,
I'd be
sure.
curious
I got
to
it.
look into it.
You know, it's sourced from the Survey of Expert Opinion on Intelligence. Do you find that to be trustworthy?
I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I'm
Right.
just curious to look into it.
That's the problem. Is that people always want to consult the experts and shit like that, but which experts can you really trust?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if these are people that are like publishing material in like Nature or other like peer-reviewed scientific journals, and they've got like an extensive background in the literature and whatnot, I mean, I would consider them, even if I don't necessarily take their opinion at face value. I mean, they would make valuable contributions to the arena, or they'd give you something more to think about.
Right. So you wouldn't take an expert's opinion at face value?
If it's disagreeing with the scientific consensus, probably not. But I would consider it interesting to hear, regardless, just to know why they disagree, I guess.
Right. Do you take the consensus at face value?
Yeah. I think I'm forced to as a layman. I think I have to.
Right. Did you get the link?
Oh, did you send it? Okay.
Yeah, I sent it. Forgot. And if you don't like the picture, I have the actual link here.
Yeah, can you throw me up the link? All right, I'll take a look at it later, okay?
Yep. But the picture is the consensus as far as intelligence researchers goes.
Mm-hmm. What else did you want to talk about?
Do you think that if the alt-hype wanted to talk... No, never mind. Anyway, I'll ask it anyway. If the alt-hype wanted to talk right now, would you do it?
I mean, I guess. If you wanted to, sure. Why, are you him or something?
No.
Oh.
He was in your stream a few nights ago.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I would just, I mean, if you're serious about debating this topic, which it seems that you are, since, I mean, given the amount of race realists that you bring onto your show, you seem pretty serious about it.
Yeah.
You should go to his website. He covers a lot of the details of a lot of different things.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I might. Yeah, I mean, if I have the time, I'll do it. I'll dig into it. Like,
and all his sources. I've been through it personally. All his sources. They're not like Breitbart or whatever. They're actual like studies done by people in their field.
sure.
And he uses data that goes back quite a ways.
Okay.
It's pretty good. How much time do you like when you're not streaming? Do you look at shit like this, or
Yeah,
do you have like a
sometimes,
full-time
depending-
job?
No, this is my full-time job. I mean, I stream quite a bit. Fuck, I want to say I average, 60 hours a week, I think, of stream time. And then I've got to do email, social media, business-related stuff with my YouTube or sponsor contact or any other kind of stuff like that. And then, any of my spare time, especially if I've got, like, debates lined up or conversations lined up, I'll be looking into these types of issues. And then the normal, like, following political things and all the going-ons of the world and whatnot, yeah.
Right. If I had to guess, I'd say it'd probably take a week, about 2 hours a day probably, to go through the most important things on his website.
Sure.
But I guess I'll tweet alt-hype and tell him that you are open to it.
Okay.
Make sure you don't puss out on me, okay?
Yeah, sure thing, buddy.
Love you, man.
Is this really all you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I baited you. My bad.
Thanks,
Had to
buddy.
get my had to get my thing going.
Well, here, I'm actually curious.
Okay.
Let's say that hypothetically, let's say that what he was saying is true. Let's say that there is a difference in intelligence, okay, that can be explained by genetic things. How does that change anything?
Well, it would change the position that whites are in. That's for sure.
What do you mean by
But,
position?
The position, where they're suffering kind of at the hands or because of basically the consequences of the things that whites have done, and that we're somehow held responsible to that. But I think that...
Well, tell me, like, right now, like today, let's say that every single person, like,
I think you're trying to bait me here.
I'm not trying to bait you. I'm
I
legitimately...
think you're trying to... I think you think I'm a tin can.
I don't necessarily think you're a tin can. I'm sorry, can you explain to me how you feel like my question is unfair or a bait? If you think it is, it's fine. But I don't know. I thought it was a fair question.
You've debated, from what I've seen so far, 7 race realists, and still haven't debated Ryan Falk. I don't want you to wear the topic out on tin cans. I want you, if you're going to debate it, do it right. Talk to someone who knows fair deal about what they're talking about.
I'm just curious. Let's forsake that. Let's say that it's true. That's a foregone conclusion. I'm just curious, how does the world change in your eyes? Like, what changes because we've now discovered that white people are intrinsically more intelligent than other minority classes or whatever, or Mexicans or black people or whatever? How does that change things? Like, what would you do differently as a result of that? What policy would we enact as a difference?
I mean, there will be a lot of consequences when that discovery is mainstream, but...
Like, what kind of consequences?
Well, for one, the point I made about, the burden that whites hold, I think.
What burden? How does that bear out in society? Like, what policy will change as a result of figuring this out? Like, do white people not have to pay taxes anymore? Or what do you mean by...
No. Well, I mean, right now, whites, they see, like, immigrants coming over and they think, oh, that's good. They're just ordinary people. And once it's made clear that they are a standard deviation lower on the IQ chart, whatever you want to call it, that'll be something that not a lot of people want. Like, do we really want millions of dumbasses in our country?
Do you have any college education?
I have 5 PhDs.
You sound like you don't have any college education. So why do we want you in our country?
Education. What? How is you're conflating college education and IQ?
They're strongly correlated.
They
They are. That's a scientific fact. It is. It's one of the arguments that race realists use to show that IQ is determined more by genes, because they'll say that people with a higher IQ are more likely to go on and farther in education and whatnot, and that IQ can predict where you wind up in an education.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're more likely to go to college,
Sure.
I would guess.
But if intelligence is so
Not
important to you, right? Does that mean that every unintelligent white person needs to be kicked out of the country as well? Like, you know that there are things that, like,
I mean, we can just round them all up and gas them if you want to.
do you think that's
I
really?
wouldn't mind doing that.
Do you think that's reasonable though? Do you think pragmatically that that'll happen in society?
No, it would never happen. I don't even know if we would round up all the blacks and kill them.
Yeah. So pragmatically, this is never going to happen. So I'm just kind of curious. Like, I'm following your belief system to its logical conclusion, right? If you,
That's not the logical conclusion, though.
well, that's what I'm asking you. What is the logical conclusion? Like, what do you do?
It would
knowing-
halt immigration, for
So,
one.
why do you think that low-skilled labor has no place? Do you think that every single job should only be like college degree related work?
No, I think our country is capable of producing unskilled labor on its own, and we don't need help from the
But we
third world.
currently have a negative birth rate. That's not true.
Yeah, we have a negative birth rate because people have been told for a very long time that the world is overpopulated and we need to stop breeding so much.
Do you
It has
think
to be-
that when two people come together and get married and make the decision on whether or not they want to have children, an incredibly personal decision, do you think that they take into account the world population when they do it? Do you think that's a reasonable assumption?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
Monk
I don't
us.
think that most people consider that. Also, you've seen a trend of birth rates falling off in the entire world, right? Every country that's moved into industrialized status has had its birth rates decline into the negatives. This is pretty much a
Right.
universal truth. So do you think every single person all over the planet has been told that overpopulation means we have to have less children? That you think that's a reasonable assumption to make?
I think that it has a pretty big impact. Not all. It doesn't account for all of it.
Okay, because it
But,
seems to me that it's more reasonable to assume that as countries move to first world status and your children are dying less and the people have more opportunity to excel in education and career and other type of work, it seems like they're less likely to have children. I make that assumption because every country that reaches, large industrialized status seems to have these negative birth rates, and that developing countries seem to still have these explosive birth rates, even though they have been falling as they've reached industrialized status. So it seems weird to think that somehow only
Yeah, but you would have to look at the cause of it, not the relationship.
Okay, well, what do you mean by cause of it?
Well, you can't just say that because they're first world that people are going to stop breeding more. You'd have to.
Well, that
you would have
seems to be the
do research into
trend.
the topic.
Well, sure, there has been
Yeah, it's a
extensive
trend,
breeding.
and they do correlate, but that doesn't mean that one causes the other.
Sure, I understand that. That's not necessarily true. But it seems to be that a lot of people accept that that's a decent reason, right? That in earlier times, people would have more children because your children would die in childbirth or at an early age. There was a higher likelihood of that. Second reason is that children were valuable workers. They're not much value today in working. And people today pursue more later life career-related things that causes them to put off having children or not having children at all. You could argue that the sexual liberation of women has led to less of them being interested in playing housewife and having children. The increased secularization of people not being
What is
super
the difference
religious and
between
having
an
lots of
I-5
children.
and AI?
There are lots of I guess like these would be like causal hypotheses, right? I don't know if any of these are necessarily proven, but it seems to be that these are all decent explanations to explain this trend of every first world country decreasing in birth. I guess
Did you just say super religious people have lots of children?
in general, don't they? I know that Catholics do. Isn't there?
No, I was just making sure that's what you said. I wasn't
Oh, yeah.
sure if I was dealing with a double negative or not.
Oh,
But yeah, you said a few good points that were pretty good, but I'm not sure that importing immigrants from the third world is a really good solution to that. I think there are way better ways to get low-skilled labor if that's what you really want for your country.
you think you can just force people to start having children? You can find a way to reverse
I think
that
you can
trend?
incentivize it. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of things you can do to incentivize or subsidize people to have children.
Is that really what we
Germany
want?
did it.
Well, but Germany still I want to say the birth rate is 1.3. It's one of the lowest birth rates in the world.
No, not back in the 30s, in the 20s.
Well, sure, back when countries were still growing. We had a baby boom explosion, and also with a lot of people dying in wars, that can impact things as well. But I don't think we're advocating wars as solutions to population problems, right?
What were you going to say before I brought up Germany?
that they had a low birth rate right now?
Not before that.
Oh, I would guess that the population of people there and any baby booms or whatever probably had to do with a lot of the global conflict going on. A lot of the wars and shit probably impacted that.
Made people fuck more.
Yeah, that's a guess. That's what happened in the United States when people came back from World War II. We had a massive surge of children, right? That's the baby boomers, right?
So, I mean, it's a little funny that something like a war can cause people to want to have more babies.
Sure. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore. It would. I don't know if I'm not entirely sure why that connection happened, but
Well, the economy kind of exploded, and people started, hey, this is pretty cool. Start having kids.
Yeah, I guess. But then what happens to these third world countries that are getting like fucked? Wouldn't it be better if these third world countries were doing better so that we didn't have to deal with their problems? If they started to progress to first world status as well, like wouldn't this be better for all of us? Or do you not necessarily?
It'll never happen.
Even though all of them are currently making that transition, why do you think it would never happen?
It'll never happen because of the racial differences. You were, originally this point started off as let's take your theory to its logical conclusion. That's not what we're doing here.
Well, no, I'm just kind of curious because in your world, right, you wouldn't have. Do you still help these countries, or do you just kind of let them do their own thing, or?
Yeah, let them live.
Yeah, so then
let them do their own thing.
The reason why I'm kind of questioning that then is like, wouldn't it be better if these countries were doing better for us as well? Like, doesn't that kind of benefit the entire world economy? Like, more people to sell products to, less instability for things like terrorism or global conflict to stem from, like.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that helping them would just do more harm than good short term, and if we ever survive that long term, maybe it would help, but I don't think it would be worth it.
Gotcha. Would you be okay if Asians came over and said that they wanted to destroy all the white people in the United States and that they were going to take over the land? Would you willingly sacrifice yourself for that cause?
No, I still have a sense of loyalty, so there's that.
Gotcha.
I mean, they might perform they might perform better on tests and things like that, but they don't look like me.
Gotcha. And that looking like you is really important to you?
Just as far as being white goes, yeah. I think, what kind of Asian countries are we talking about? Philippines?
Well, I don't know. Are
China?
all the Asians, don't you believe that they're all more like intelligent than white people because of their Asian genes?
No, there's only a certain sect that's better.
Oh, gotcha.
Eastern, mainly, primarily. Philippines sucks dick.
Okay.
And a lot of China. A lot of China sucks too.
Gotcha.
All their smart people are in one area.
Okay.
But there's more to a person's value than their raw cognitive ability, I think.
Well, then why are you making intelligence to be like this defining factor?
It is a primary factor. It's not the only reason. It's pretty important, but you gotta have more than that, I think.
Like what else do white people have that black people or Mexicans don't have that's not intelligence?
I think that would probably be getting into, I don't know. It's not something I really look at, but I think it's definitely there. Creativity, ingenuity, things like that.
So you somehow know that white people are also more creative and have more ingenuity than all these other groups of people as well?
I mean, we would have to be.
Why is that?
Given the history.
Which history is that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Asians, but let's forget about blacks and Mexicans because they're obviously shit, right?
I mean,
Asians,
I don't agree, but okay.
they're obviously. They perform better on tests, so they're more intelligent.
Okay.
Let's take that. But there's a certain quality that whites have that makes their economies more successful than Asians.
What quality do you think that is?
I don't know. Scientific innovation, who knows?
You don't think that any of history could have played into why white societies do better than Asian or black or Mexican societies? You don't think any amount of history could have played into that? It's all due to genetics?
No, I don't think that. I think that it's probably more than 50% genetics, and I think the rest is history.
Gotcha.
Just the way things panned out.
Sure.
But I mean, you even see it now.
See what now?
Just innovation from whites. I mean, China. What they do, we had an aircraft carrier, and they basically replicated it.
Okay.
And like, all their gun designs are designs of weapons that whites have made, and they just replicate it and name it the Chinese type whatever.
I'm not sure if that's true, but okay.
They do. They replicate guns, and they're like really shitty replicas. But I think that any theory you can come up with, as far as history goes, would be sort of a just so story, and it would be unfalsifiable.
What, do you think that history isn't a real branch of science to study, or?
I think that if you were to draw conclusions from history, it would be a just so explanation, and it would be unfalsifiable. I just. What?
What do you mean by unfalsifiable? What does that mean?
Like, Germany invaded Poland a long time ago.
Okay.
And because of that, keyboards became the best-selling product in the world. Just because.
Keyboards?
No, I'm just saying. I'm giving you an example. Like, it's just so like. Because Germany invaded Poland, keyboards became the best-selling product in the world.
So because history is complicated, we can't try to study it or anything, or everything will just be meaningless? Although,
I think looking into it would probably be a wasted effort.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it's just a just so explanation.
Sure. What do you do again for work?
Why?
We're just curious.
I'm a carpenter.
Okay.
I'm a carpenter. I'm a carpenter.
Yeah, why is that so funny?
It's not. I read something that was funny.
Gotcha. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about, buddy, or we're pretty good?
I mean, what do you...
Was this the main point you wanted, that you wanted me to look into talking to the alternative hypothesis guy?
You're not going to say anything?
Well, I mean, what is there for me to say?
I mean, you brought up how history could be this and that.
Well, I mean, history can tell us lots of things. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very important to discover how things happen via history, but you don't think it's a legitimate area of study, so there's not really much room for discussion there.
Well, tell me something.
Something about what?
What led whites to develop the steam engine before China?
I'm not sure. Didn't China discover gunpowder before white people did? Wasn't China one of the first places to discover farming as well? Oh.
Sure. I mean, gunpowder, it's a group of chemicals that all burn, and they mix them together and it explodes.
Okay.
It's very innovative.
Why didn't white people figure it out if it's so easy to do it?
because we were too busy making a steam engine.
Gotcha.
But for real,
the entire population of white people was all dedicated to making steam engines. Every single white person in all society at the time was dedicated to making steam engines.
No. I mean, the steam engine is obviously a more innovative creation than gunpowder, right?
If a society had steam engines and another society had gunpowder, which society do you think would win in a war?
The side of steam engines.
Why? How?
I mean, it's not obvious.
I don't know. How do the steam engines help them beat the bullets?
Wait, gunpowder. That's not guns.
Oh shit, the Chinese people, what about cannonballs and shit?
Cannonballs?
Yeah.
Wait.
Didn't they just use their gunpowder on fireworks?
Dude, I don't have no fucking idea. I don't know fuck all about Chinese history.
Well, let's just imagine a really big, like, car, and it has a steam engine, and you just ran over all the Chinese people, and, like, and their faces, it looked like zippers when you were done.
Okay. Are you sure that Chinese people didn't invent guns before white people did?
I'm not sure, actually, but I
Who
don't
invented
think
the first guns? Let's find out. After the Chinese invented black powder during the 9th century, these inventions were later transmitted to the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Direct ancestor is a fire lance, a prototype of the gun. Who do you think fired the first one?
Fired or invented?
Invented.
Probably European. If I had to make an educated guess. Am I right?
Fireman's the fire lance. Let's check out this. Fire lance. I don't know. This looks like a Chinese thing, dude. These people are looking pretty Chinese to me. They got the...
What's a fire lance? Does it shoot bullets?
Apparently.
Look up flintlock.
What is flintlock? What about it?
Is it European or Chinese?
It sounds like a French thing, so probably European.
I just googled it too, and when I went to the Wikipedia, it shows a black man. So I think it was an African invention.
Oh, that sounds like a really good way to do research. I know the picture is nice, but you could, if you read the history, it actually backs your point up a little bit if you use the words on the page.
No, I was just jerking your dick.
Oh.
I knew it was European.
Okay. Alright, well, okay, are we good? Are we all...
I mean, are we? Europeans invented firearms.
Okay, well, there we go. Alright, dude, well, listen, I love you. I'll look into that alternative hypothesis guy, alright?
Yeah, his name's Ryan Falk, and he's a great man.
Alright, I'm sure he is. He sounds like a great man. I'll talk to you later, buddy. Where the fuck is all of our power at, Kyle?